Welcome to the Hot Girl School, the podcast where we redefine confidence and go way beyond the reflection you see in the mirror.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Danielle, here to empower you to embrace your inner radiance because confidence is so much more than looks.
Whether you're strutting into an event or conquering the boardroom, join us as we explore topics like self-love, inner strength, and owning your unique journey to confidence.
So grab your favorite drinkie and turn up that volume because you're about to unleash your true potential.
Hey hotties, school is now in session. For the first time, we are together shooting you from the Hot Girl School. And today we are going to talk about a very exciting topic, a hard topic, something that everybody needs. And it is something that lights both of us up, which is working on yourself. So Lauren, tell us what your definition is of working on yourself.
Working on yourself is very multifaceted, in my opinion. So you've got the path of least resistance,
Sure.
which is sleeping with the next random, partying, drugs and alcohol. Maybe you throw yourself into work. There's so many ways to just keep pretending that whatever you're thinking, feeling, don't like about yourself, maybe the relationship you're in isn't for you. And you need to make the change, but you don't want to. So that's number one. Number two, you have a tolerance level, at least from my experience, and you will stay in that shitty relationship, job, whatever it is, again, that you don't like. Maybe it's childhood trauma. And that tolerance level will one day be too much, and either your body gives out or you just change your mind and you're like, okay, it's time to go on a new trajectory. And those two things for me are what I've experienced as far as needing the change. And then that turns into, what does it mean to work on yourself? Like, people ask that question all the time.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you?
So I think a little bit of what you said for sure. And I think the way you're describing it to me is forced change, right? So I think there's forced change where your body gives out, you get sick, you have an ailment, you finally have just had enough. But then there's also intentional change where you're going, you know, this isn't working. I want to make a change. Maybe it's not a dire situation. It's, I want to start a new job. My job's not terrible. I just want to expand and grow or level up. So I think working on yourself is two paths. Is it forced change where you have to work on yourself because it just got too bad? Or is it intentional change that you decided, I want to make this change and I'm going to take the steps? And that leads into, you have to be willing to change. You can't just imagine it. You can't just manifest. You can't just think it. You have to take some steps. You have to take some action in order to experience change. So what does that look like? What different, let's talk about some of the action steps that listeners can take to change that maybe out of the box, because everybody's like, read a book, listen to a podcast,
go dance, make laugh, like write it out, journal. Like, there's so many easy ways to go find yourself. But what does it mean to work on yourself? So to me, it's being alone. It's being alone at home on a Saturday night. It's learning your boundaries, who you are. For example, like, I refuse to take shots. And when somebody decides that they want to buy me a shot, they get offended.
Get over the shoulder.
I'll pour it on their shoes.
I'm pouring their shit out.
Oh, dude. And then they get mad at me. And I'm like, dude, I told you no, I don't take shots. And so it takes a long time to get used to something like that because everybody takes tequila shots. I'm always the odd man out. And that's a very small start, but that's where we start, right? Is in public with somebody we don't really know or care about. And those are the boundaries that you start to set and you start to get to know yourself. When I took a step back and was like, do I even like tequila? No, it makes me want to gag.
Sure.
Right? And this is just a small example. I'm sure you have small examples. Like, what's a good starting point? Because going all in and trying everything at once is not the way to do it. You have to start small.
I think the start is identifying what do I want to change, right? Is it I want to lose weight? Is it I want to improve my wardrobe? Is it I want to change the way I do my makeup or how I curl my hair? Something like that. You have to first identify what is it that you want to change and then have some reflection. I think reflection is huge because sometimes we change things for other people and we don't even realize we're doing it. But when you just take a moment and be with yourself and really ask yourself, how does this make me feel? Or why do I want to change my hair? Where is that? It could be something deeper. And then once you identify it, then you can create an action plan. And the action plan that works for me to change my hair may not work for you to change your hair or vice versa.
But let's take one giant step back. The fact that you are, not you, but anybody is willing to sit with themselves is the hardest step. Sitting in silence and thinking and just taking the time to be alone is probably the most uncomfortable. The change is hard, but like that initial identifying step requires some big huevos.
Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. So it's, are you willing to get there? And if you really want to make a change, anybody can change. Anybody can learn something new. You can literally do anything that you put your mind to. So it doesn't matter what it is. You have to be willing to take the action.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting in it and owning like, okay, I'm the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the reason why I hate my job because I'm choosing to continue to go to that job every day, not work on my resume, not make a change, not learn a new skill,
or even your
not
mindset.
Network.
Maybe you're going into it every day with a negative mindset. Maybe try a positive mindset.
Or telling yourself, this is what it is. You're settling.
Right.
A lot of people are settling and you don't have to, but you have to choose not to. And then you have to take action in order to actually see something different.
Correct. So what are some things that you've done to work on yourself other than the traditional 12 things we can list right off the top of our heads?
Yeah, I mean, therapy. Therapy is a big one. That is a big one. There's a lot of things that happen to us humans throughout life and a lot of things that you may not realize are affecting you that once you really intentionally do some therapy, you can get some big breakthroughs and see some massive action.
Can I add to that?
Totally.
Then we'll come back to yours. So a big thing for me when I was going through some of my changes was understanding that what happened in your childhood, I had a hard time admitting that my parents raised me. I want to think of my parents as saints and that they always have my best interest at heart. But once I started to learn about projection and I realized they don't have what's best in mind for me. They have best in mind what they think I should do or what they're comfortable doing. And that's the advice that they give. And I am like a black sheep. I am like a Sagittarius. I'm always doing new things. I jump in feet first and do not think about anything. And that's just not who I am. So to take advice from someone who's like, oh no, you should stay put in your little box. Like, that doesn't work for me. So I had a really hard time talking about the childhood piece, understanding that I can't blame my parents, but it also is because of my parents. So that was a hard step for me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense.
You're trying to trace it back.
Especially if you put a lot of weight in your parents' opinion of your life. So I had a mentor that taught me something. This is a huge golden nugget that adds, if you're struggling with that, I want you to think of one thing. If somebody doesn't have the life that you want or the values that you want to embody, their advice is irrelevant.
Gold.
Okay?
Gold.
Irrelevant. So if your parents don't have the life that you wanted or don't have the marriage that you wanted, how are they going to best advise you if they never experienced that and they weren't it doesn't make them bad or wrong or anything. Don't take advice from people that don't have the things that you want or embody the values that you want to have.
That's a really big lesson to learn at a young age. And I don't think you'll understand it until you actually start to experience it. Because you might take advice from someone that maybe you shouldn't have, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember that good quote, and I should have just followed it.
Okay. Gut thing, right?
Yes. So sorry to interrupt and go off on a tangent.
No.
Other things you've done to work on yourself.
We are big fans of tangents here. So I think exercise. So this is one thing. I used to be, okay, I have a trip planned, and I'm going to diet, and I'm going to work out really hard, and then it's going to be good, and then I would let myself be lazy with working out, and I would get frustrated because I didn't have a consistent.
After you went on a trip or
before? So like before I would go on a trip. This is when I younger, much younger.
The orange diet.
Exactly.
And just eat oranges for 3 days and be super skinny.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that, but close, right? So, and that the thing is, it's just like with anything, it's consistency.
Yeah.
If you're not consistent, it's not going to stick. So what I had to finally do is sit down and be honest with myself. Like, the reason my clothes don't fit the way I want them to, the reason I don't look the way I want to look in a swimsuit or feel the way I want to feel, because it's not just about looks, is because of me. I'm the problem. I'm not showing up for myself. I'm letting myself down. I'm not being consistent in my workout routines and all of that. So the change for me was, okay, I have to identify what workout do I enjoy? Because if I don't enjoy it, like, I don't like lifting weights.
Right.
I just don't. I know that it's great and all those things, but I discovered Pilates, and that's what works for me. And I do it like my religion, every week, 3 to 4 times. And ever since I've gotten consistent, now I don't have those ebbs and flows of where I'm like, okay, I have to crash diet or crash workout before a trip.
What becomes part of your lifestyle.
Exactly.
And now your day or your week is empty without it. And it almost is like, I haven't made it to the gym this week, right? So instead of before, it was like, oh, I'm good. I haven't been in a few days. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't been. You just reverse the whole science of it.
So yeah, it's coming up with something that you can be consistent at, and then compounding those steps, your habit stacking, you're making it a routine. And now I don't even have to think about it. I actually enjoy it. I look forward to going to Pilates, going tomorrow, and I can't wait.
Exactly, because it's part of your daily routine. All right. Let's see. Some things that I've worked on to work on myself was certainly being single and celibate. You know, not that I was slutty. I'm sure that comes out a totally wrong way. But just being mindful of like not just going on every single date and not just being loose with kissing and being like, oh yeah, he'll do. Like the desperation of wanting to be in a relationship for me was pretty high. Like I've always wanted to be married, always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like, oh, he's good on paper. I call him a should. He's a should. So it was like, all right, I'm going to try and make it work because he's a should.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't really work because if the romantic or sexual chemistry isn't there, that is not going to last very long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have to have like quite a few things to make it work. It's not just like he drives this car, he's this tall, blue eyes.
And I'm attracted to him.
Right. Like it's so much more than that, which maybe you don't know at such a young age, or I didn't at least.
None of us do. We're all working through it, trying to figure it out.
So when I decided to be single and celibate, I did it for 6 months, which actually turned into a year, I guess, kind of by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody asked me out, I finally asked myself, do I want to go out with this guy? And if I decided to go out with him, it was, do I want him to call me back? The truth is I don't really want him to call me back. He was cool, but I wasn't really into it like that. And so once I learned to ask myself instead of let my ego speak louder than what I truly wanted, my ego wants him to call. No doubt. I want to know that he wants me.
Everyone's ego wants them to call.
Everybody.
Send me the text. Make
Totally.
it ring, let's go.
He called. Like that's like literally all you want. But once you
Note to
stop,
self, if there's men listening, make the call. Stroke the ego. Come on.
Exactly. That's all it takes. And so once I decided, like, it's me that I need to ask, do I want this guy to call me back? That was a huge game changer for my dating life. I was like, I don't really care if he calls.
Okay, so let's summarize that because this is gold. So we found a new saying today. You want to tell them what it is?
Oh yeah, Salulu.
Salulu.
Salulu. So that's short for solution.
Yep.
Or maybe it's longer, but it's cuter than solution.
So the Salulu, if you are struggling in dating or you feel like you keep doing the same thing or dating the same asshole, is to stop and sit with yourself, have some reflection, and really map out what do I want and why. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Because when you map out what you want and then you go through that list and say why, sometimes you'll discover that you don't actually want it. It could be an ego thing. It could be something that was imprinted on you because someone told you that's what you should want in a relationship.
That's a good one.
Right? Mm-hmm. So if that's an area that you really want to work on, I would say that's a tangible to like sit down, make a list, then step away from the list, go back to it and really intentionally go, why do I want this?
Oh yeah. Have you ever done that? Like just waited for someone to call and they call and it's so anticlimactic and you're like, ugh. Okay.
So
I didn't really actually want you to call, but thanks. like you're annoyed either way.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed if you call and I'm annoyed if you don't.
Well, it comes down to that thing. So this is one of my favorite sayings, and I used to recovering people pleaser. I definitely have taken things personally throughout my life. And when I heard this, I was like, that is very good. That is just great advice. So here it is. If it doesn't matter in 5 seconds, is it going to matter in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, or 5 years? What's the level of matter to this situation? So if you're really struggling and you stop and ask yourself, like, how much does this matter? And that's how you measure it. Oftentimes, it's not even going to matter in 5 hours.
No, it's really not. But it feels like a really big deal. You know, you could even just go sit in public and listen to other people's conversations as they walk by, and like just get clips of people's life. And you can go sit on a bench and you can see one person having the best day of their life and the next person sobbing their eyes out, or two people fighting or whatever, and a little kid who's in la la land. Like there's so many other things going on in the world outside of yourself. That's why being alone is so important. I mean, whether it is going for a walk, as cheesy as that is, it's such a like easy way to just be with yourself.
Yep.
Or you go to a bar, or you sit at you go to dinner by yourself. Like there's a little bit of peace in that. And the people who don't like to be alone, my favorite example is people who can't go to yoga class.
Yeah.
Everyone I know who hates yoga, I'm like, oh, you hate yourself. And that makes me sad for you. I want you to like yourself. Work through all those things that you don't like. But that's, again, back to step one. How do you admit about those things that you don't like? It comes back to what you said.
Yeah.
You have to want to change.
You have to want to change. You have to be willing to sit with yourself and be honest about
So
where is it. And I think sometimes when we, you know, I've been a workaholic before. I've, you know, just go. And that is a form of trying to suppress the problem and really escape it because you're so busy you don't have to acknowledge it. And when you are alone and you have solitude and quiet time, you're sitting with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And if your thoughts are scary, that you need to address them because you don't have to live like that. It's going to take work. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be uncomfortable. But if you're willing to address the things, like there's a beautiful life on the other side of that. And anyone can have it.
Anyone can have it. It's free, right? Like you don't have to go to therapy.
Yeah.
You just have to be diligent. You have to be responsible.
Find
you
a
have
friend,
to be mindful, an accountability
a
partner.
friend that you want, that is doing things you want to do, that embodies values you want to have, and have them help you through the journey.
Yes, it is. It's a really cool thing once you start seeing the work you've put in show up. It is very rewarding. And then you just want more. That almost becomes an addiction in and of itself because you just want more. And now you know that you can have it. And you start to maybe go back to those old habits. And you're thinking to yourself, I can't even believe I used to like do this. I cannot believe this used to be like how I used to live and what I lived for.
But also, to add to that, then sit and give yourself, like, celebrate that. Give yourself a pat on the back. And really use that as like journal, write that down because it's so helpful for me to like flip back in my journal and see things that I struggled with that I made change. And then it makes me have confidence to do it again when I'm really struggling. And it's good to reflect and be like, bravo to myself. You are a badass.
And it's a fun conversation to have. Like you and I have both said, we're kind of in non-drinking eras right now. Of course, we have things coming up that require drinking, but we don't seek it out like we used to.
And I don't even think it requires it, but we're like, it'll be fun to have a cocktail.
Totally. And then I go do it and I'm like, the party's always there. Like I really don't miss it. Waking up early and having a productive day is so much more meaningful to me.
I
but
feel
it
like
took
this
me a
is
long
a
time
pull
to get
because
there.
I wonder if it has to do with like our age, where we're at in life. You know what I mean? Because my 25-year-old self would have been like, "Where's the party?"
Yeah, 100% all the time. She's still in there. She's like, "Bring me back out."
She's like,
"Bring me back out." Yeah. So some of our tangibles. Do we need to like recap the list? What?
Well, no, I think though with the drinking thing. So this is a tangible.
Okay.
And it's honoring your boundaries, honoring what you really want, and being okay with somebody giving you a hard time for going out and not drinking. And when you do that, you build trust in yourself. It makes it easier to do it the next time. It makes it easier to do it with the next thing you want to level up on or change or get better. So practice that. And also, if you are struggling, you maybe shouldn't be partying. Usually people that I know that have gone through hard times and they're escaping through alcohol, it makes the problems bigger.
Oh, kicking the can down the road, in my opinion, is the worst thing you could do. Like I said, you end up having the breakdown anyway, so you might as well just go through it right now. And then all of a sudden you have a better life sooner rather than later.
Well, and I think that's something that the more you do it, the better you get at it. And you start to realize, like you said, okay, I'm just going to face this. Because the only way through shit is through it. Like the only way to the other side is to just go, you know what? I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to go through this. And it's the feels, the change, like all of it. You just have to do it. And then as you build momentum in trusting yourself to do that, it's easier to keep creating change.
Yeah. The shedding is the hard part. because you don't know what's next. You know the old life. Maybe you're over it and you don't want to do it anymore, but you don't know what comes next. And that's why it's scary, which is why this teacher arrives when the student is ready. As soon as you have made the decision, whether it's mentally, I've made the decision, or just like time hop, timeline hop, that's when all of a sudden you're like, oh, like I'm not really gravitating to my friends that I used to gravitate towards. Now I'm liking these friends, whoever they are, and you have different, more meaningful conversations, and those are so, like, you take them to heart, and you're like, oh my gosh, like life can just be so much more beautiful if you take the time to get through the hard stuff. And I promise you, whoever in your life you are doing this with, they are going through it, or they've been through it, or maybe they need to go through it.
Right. And I think that gets to, like, everybody says right now, especially I hear it a lot with people in their like mid-30s, like, no new friends.
What?
And I so disagree with that.
I have not heard that. Thank God.
People come into your life for reason, and sometimes you can even seek it out because you want change, and that's okay. Like, don't be afraid to have a new friend. And I think we've talked about this before, or to even distance with a friend. It doesn't mean you don't like them anymore. It doesn't mean that they have to get out of your life. It's just you're going through something, and that friendship is preventing you from moving forward through the change, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. We want to hear from you and understand, what do you do? What does working on yourself mean? Because I know I said it for years. Oh, I'm just working on myself right now. And inside I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? You know? And then once I understood it, now it's like, it's just, we always say this is your line. Like, it's a muscle, and you have to keep flexing it, working it out. What's the word?
Working on
You
it.
have to keep working on it,
Or it's going to get weak. If you keep working on it, it's going to get strong.
And that's why I gave like the silliest example about taking a shot. That's a very small place, but it's also on the other side of that is, I like beer. I don't drink mixed drinks, cocktails.
You're
At 39, I'm finally started, right? Like, when I was in college, it was vodka Red Bull, and I used to say Red Bull vodka. You remember that. Exactly. And I hated it. It tastes like a gummy bear. I hate gummy bears.
It's like someone being like, do you want a Jaeger?
The worst, right? And I was like, well, everybody else is doing it, I guess I'll just do it. But once I realized, like, I'm allowed to say no, and I don't have to drink what everyone else is drinking, I just want a fucking beer, that was like getting to know myself. Okay, I'm not being a follower, I'm being a leader to myself. I'm honoring what I like. And I give these very basic examples so that you can just start somewhere. It doesn't have to be this massive thing, because what we're talking about can be a massive change, but it takes time, years, books, therapy, however you want to get there, right?
Totally. I think so. I'll leave you all with this. And we've gone really into Layla Hermosi lately. And she said this thing that I wish I would have heard it when I was 22 or even in high school. And she talks about how she measures things by asking herself, am I going to respect myself more or less by doing this? So whatever the changes that you're wanting to do, that could be a great measuring stick to say, am I going to respect myself more or less if I do this? And it could be not the massive change. It could be the first step to starting the change. So maybe start with that, because you can apply it to anything you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, a million examples just flew through my head. I'm like, yeah, that really does. I think that's a good one. And then our second question that you need to ask yourself is, do you want to change?
And even being honest with that, because maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe you don't. And then even just being honest and going, I know I need to do this. I know that it would be great if I did. I just don't want to yet. And that's okay. That's okay. Then you're not going to get to the other side. And when you choose to say, I'm ready, the work begins, and you can get to the other side. You can get whatever you want.
Far quicker. Yeah. And again, once you start seeing the little rewards, you're like on the right path. Just keep going. And I think that's the best part. It's just the tiny little changes. What is that saying? Small changes eventually add up to huge results.
Totally.
Compound effect, which we've discussed in other episodes.
Okay, so because we discovered Salulu today, I think it would be so fun if we start to it's better to do things with each other. That's why we're like,
we're doing this together.
We're doing this together. We literally talked before we set this whole thing up. This is our first time recording together. It took us 2.5 hours to get the setup and the lighting and the camera and all that stuff. And she goes, I would have quit if you weren't
Mhm.
here. And so sometimes find a partner, okay? And you don't have to do everything alone.
No. And that's a big step too, because you have to ask, who can you trust? Who are you safe with? Who are you going to tell these things to? And you don't have to tell them like bearing your soul, but somebody who's going to respect what you say and maybe give advice. And everybody can see things better when it's not you.
Totally. Okay, so the Salulu. How fun would this be if you are embarking on some change or taking a journey to improve yourself or whatever the case may be? We would love for you to post, and you don't have to make it obvious, but post, tag the Hot Girl School either on TikTok or Instagram, and hashtag Salulu.
Yes.
And we will know it'll be our inside community for us hotties, and we can cheer each other on. We can become an accountability coach. Hashtag Salulu. And we will know it just means your work. It could be you writing in a journal. It could be you taking a walk. It could be you laying in the grass and getting some grounding in. It could be you high-fiving your new friend. Hashtag Salulu, so we know that you are working on yourself.
Dude, we're so excited to hear from you on this one because this is a big one. This one means a lot to both of us. Like we said, it lights us both up. We could talk about it for hours. We have a lot of personal stories to share on this topic. So we also want to hear from you. Please, please, please. We want to know, what are you doing? Like, what makes sense? What, yeah, like throw out others. Like what we're talking about maybe doesn't even resonate. Maybe something you say resonates with another hottie.
Help us. We're going to keep going through change, so give us some tips.
Yes. So thank you guys for listening to this
time?
one. Yeah, this one was important.
Hey, it's our first one.
We did it.
Salulu.